Hey everyone, it's Mickey, and this is Ivy Mickey, my other madhouse. Um, Here I talk about stuff I'm going through, um, personal views, things going on in the world, my views on them, you know, you can find my other stuff, my other YouTube, below, in my link tree link. But yeah, today I wanted to talk about people's views on trans people or trans women in women's sports. This is nothing against trans women, people that support them, but this is for the people that don't want to compete against a man. Okay? Women have been outdoing men for centuries. I understand how you feel, the stigma surrounding that women are the weaker sex. No, we're not. Women are not the weaker sex. You've been told that, and you've been led to believe that that's true. Well, then medical science says, certain things about men are more dominant than certain things about women. Medical science doesn't always, my personal belief is that, say you're a doctor, and you try to say no, something's not real, or, this medicine doesn't work, when it comes to stuff that is proven to work for people. Well, you can't really say something like, well, this doesn't exist, or this medicine doesn't work. Unless, well, are you a scientist? Are you willing to learn? Or are you somebody who's like a puppet following whatever, medical board, is telling you to say, whatever government's telling you to say, whatever. There's that, and then there's people that want to learn and willing to learn, and yeah. So, when certain people say, medical science says, well, those people you need to ignore, because it's not coming from somebody who truly cares. It's like one of the things I hate hearing is people saying, well, talk, I'm not a doctor, so go to a doctor. I say go to an expert. I'll post a video on that, because that's something I really hate hearing. Well, talk to a doctor. Talk to an expert, not a doctor. But, yeah. You can't say that because somebody was born a man that they're going to be stronger than you, they're going to be more athletic than you, going to be able to do certain things that you can't as a woman. And I know some women are going to be like, I'm not that, I'm not, I don't think that certain traits of mine are weaker than, than a man. But you kind of are when you do that, because nobody really sets out to be the best man or woman at something. They really set out to be the best. It's not about whether they're a man or a woman. Why are you really? I understand, but you need to get out of that mindset that because they were born a man, that they're going to be better than you. No, they're not. Women have been outdoing men for centuries. At sports. Everything else, yes. Everything. You can't say, because I was born a woman, that I'm weaker than a man. That is horrible. You lessen yourself. And you make yourself out to be, you make yourself out to be somebody who's not really worth anything. And that's horrible, because you need to prop yourself up and say, yeah, okay, I'm a woman, and really, like, okay, what's that going to do with anything? That doesn't mean that you're going to be weaker than a man physically, athletically, anyway. You know, I mean, some of the women who are like, well, I think women shouldn't be allowed to vote. Well, I'm not trying to be mean, but with how certain women go, why are they even talking, considering they're trying to take all the women's rights away from them? And some people can be like, well, yeah, I'm a woman, so I need to be safe to compete against other women. So, the scenario where you're somewhere and all of a sudden, some man comes up to you and starts harassing you. Are you going to quiver in fear and, oh, don't hurt me. Or are you going to try to defend yourself? Well, and you can say, well, that's different. No, it's not. Because how are you going to sit there and say, but I had to defend I defended myself, and, I beat him up, and he's now, he has a black eye, and his, face is, bruised, and his body's, it's like, okay, you got away, you defended yourself, and you're the one that's victorious. He has more bruises on him, he has more cuts, more scrapes, more, welts on him, good. And you, as a woman, are the one that did that to a man. So, in sports, and I mean, self-defense is a sport. And people can say, I'm not, and I'll get to why in a separate video, but I am not a fan of UFC or WWE. I don't support them. There might be certain people there in those companies that I like, but beyond that, I don't like the bosses. I don't like the people that, people are like, oh, well, so-and-so is innocent, or so-and-so, explain what went on, and, like, I'm not somebody who blindly believes everything I hear and see. And I'm like, well, then why do you believe that? Well, when there's smoke, there's fire, in a sense. And when there's so many things piling up against somebody, certain times, if you really look at the context of it, if you really look at everything, you tend to see that that person might be guilty. And, I don't like those companies. I don't like the people that are the boss of them. I don't like people that, I feel really sad when people side with those companies when knowing what you're getting into. And some people, you're young, you're naive, you make mistakes, you go there. I understand that, but hey, you know what? We all make mistakes, and it's best that I don't like the term when people say, learn from your mistakes. No. To say circumstances are mistakes, but, like I was saying with, where there's smoke, there's fire, but you need to look into it. Sometimes when you look into something, you'll see that a person might not be to blame, but in certain cases, for me, I like to look into things. I'm not going to believe everything I hear and see from mainstream media, from the governments, from all that. I don't. That's something I learned, you know, I'll make another video on this, but certain things we learned as a kid, not to believe everything we hear, you know, share that toy, you know, be nice, you know, don't be mean to so-and-so, certain things like that, you know, I'm like, yeah, I was taught that. So, and in certain people, you know, hopefully that's not a lost art, but, you know, people being taught that's a good thing, but you need to do that with everything. So once you start believing certain things that they tell you to believe, like doctors, you know, your doctor says, well, it's, you know, this doesn't exist, or this pill doesn't work. And when you do your research with experts, you know, hey, you find out, no, this does exist, this does work. So yeah. So, you know, people really need to get their head out of that women are weaker mindset. Because you're not. Physically, athletically, in any way. People also say, well, women aren't hormonal, so, you know, their emotions are, you know, get in the way of things. Men can be that way too. Trust me, men can be that way too. And I don't like stereotypes, so I'm not somebody who's like, well, men are like this and women are like this. No. You can't say that. That is a general term. You can't base life off statistics. You start doing that, and everything's screwed up. And you can't really, it's not a, you know, if you're trying to fit into this bubble, you know, you can't really do that. You know, it's also the thing where everybody's guilty except for me. No, you can't do that. So, you know, it's something I really want people to think about, and I don't want anybody to put themselves down and make themselves feel like they're less than. You know, we've all been there to where we're told we're worthless, we're no use, and, you know, you know, it's like, really? You know, that's all I am? Like, you know, it really makes you feel, you know, horrible. So, look, I don't need to post stuff. I mean, there's too many things to prove my point. You know, if I really have to post every link to everything, there's never going to be any room. But really, look it up. Look at all the women who have outdone men in everything, including sports. You will find infinity amount of numbers beyond that, you know. So, I mean, you really can't say, and I really want people to get out of that mindset. No, women are not weaker than men. I am somebody who's for equal rights. I believe in men and women having equal rights. I'm not this ultra-feminist where men are evil and bad, and no. I know that there are some women who are abusive to men. I know that there are some women who get away with it because they're a woman. I'm a woman. I'm weak. He's a man. He's stronger. You know, you can, it's like people use that, but you can only use it for so long to where it's like, okay, no. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, really, think about what you're saying and really think, am I really that good? I mean, nobody wants to be the best man or woman. They want to be the best. be the best, not man or woman, person, being, whatever. I always say that I'm not. I've always been somebody who has been different, and I've never been, sometimes we try to fit in places, and, we don't, and I've always been a person, I'm the kind of person that, I don't like labels, and I don't like, being told I can't do something, or something is bad when, it isn't, and we've all gone into things that, later we, when we get out of it, we realizing that it's bad, getting out of it. I've been there, but going into it so far, to where then you really start, you really wake up, because sometimes you see it, but you don't see it, because it's like you have something there, like saying it's wrong, and can't always trust certain things, so I'm not saying, trust your gut, trust your conscience, or whatever. I'm not going to tell you to do that. What, really think, I mean, certain things going on today. It's like Trump going to war with Iran, and, Iran, whatever, and all the stuff he's doing. That's not right. Avoiding releasing the Epstein files and having all the guys that are in it around him. Notice that? Yeah. I certain things, what I'm saying? But yeah. So, really, think about that, people. Think about it when, when people say, oh, you don't want trans people in the military too. Why? What's the big deal? There are a few LGBTQ plus people that have been in the military that have done some really amazing things. Are you going to try to deny that and say, no, none of them are great, all of them are sick people, and like I said, people that are gay, oh, you're sick, and isn't everybody sick? Yeah, well, yeah. I'd rather be sick than stupid. And I'm not trying to insult people, but I'm venting as well, because it's just something that really pisses me off, because I don't like seeing people put themselves down. So, yeah. Remember, just because somebody was born a man, just because you were born a woman, doesn't mean you're better. Doesn't mean you're more superior in anything. Not only, brute strengths with muscles and being athletic at certain, don't do that. Really, guys, really think about what you're saying, because it's not true. Trust me. So, very simple thought. I don't want to, there's really no need to go into a big essay, Now, what I can do is do bigger videos on, or even smaller videos on women who have outdone men throughout the centuries at everything. So I can do that to, proving to people that it's true, and proving to people that they don't need to be scared or afraid. And even if you say, well, I'm not scared and afraid, You really are, if you're doing that. You're putting yourself down as a woman. As a person. Why? Okay? You know, there's no need to do that. So, yeah, like I said, times are tough, with my mom being laid off, and, you know, depending on benefits coming in, and with family, it's not as easy as, it's a lot less easier. Wasn't easy before, but it was a little easier. So, if you guys could help out donating to me, I mainly use Cash App, so you can donate via that, but I also have Venmo and PayPal. Also, my Linktree link is below. You could find my other YouTube, Mickey's Madhouse, my other Madhouse. This is also a Madhouse, but you know, I know a lot of people use the I am thing, but I like to be different, so, well, I am Mickey. Yeah, no, I be Mickey. I be me. Yeah. I know people like, you can do IBM. Yeah, I don't know. I like IB Mickey. But, so yeah, you know, you could find, you know, my other YouTube in my Linktree link, link. You could find, my TwitX, my Blue Sky, my Amazon links, my main Amazon link. I created a new one that, for things that are more stuff that I need right away. I'm not a wants and needs kind of person, because people overuse that, and, you know. So, this is stuff I need more right away than other stuff, and I didn't want, I know I can ask that, but, you know, figured, well, I can create a link for that, you know, in Amazon, and you guys could then, you know what is more stuff I need now. So, yeah. You can find that below. You can find my Amazon review list of things I want to review. Also, upgrading one of my PCs to a gaming rig. You know, looking at some gamers, I'm like, that stuff doesn't look too hard. You know, certain games they play. But on my PCs, you know, I could barely run the simplest of games. And I mean simple. So, you know, I want to be able to upgrade it and not go crazy with it, but, you know, simple things so I can, you know, at least get started. So yeah, you know, and I know certain things I could find less elsewhere, you know, and certain, like, for reviews and stuff, you know, certain things that I could try, you know, given, you know, what's in my Amazon list and what I talk about, you know. So, you know, you could leave a comment below, send me an email, let me know what you guys think on that. So, but yeah, and of course donate to me, because then I'd be able to get that stuff. So, subscribe if you like this, leave a comment, like this video, leave a comment, would be nice, that's all I ask. I want people to come together here and not be apart. I want to empower people that, you know, I want people to also understand I'm not really trying to put them down. I'm frustrated with things, and that's something I want people to know, is that I'm frustrated with them. I hate seeing people in pain, even people that really, really hurt me. I don't like seeing them in pain, because, you know, it's just not something I can do. It's not who I am as a person. So, but I get frustrated like we all do. And yes, you know, I might be different, you know, being able to, I always like saying, you can be part of a crowd and get lost, or create your own crowd. I'd rather create my own crowd, you know. So, yeah, you know, I really want people to see that, you know, they're not looking down on themselves, and they're not, you know, hating themselves, or, you know, being afraid, you know, because of whatever, you know, that they need to be able to stand up and say, no, I'm not. Yeah, like with this video, talking about, well, you were born a woman, and they were born a man, you know, even though they're becoming a woman now, like, who cares, okay? You focus on you, and improve yourself. Don't accept, well, you know, I'm screwed, you know, I have these faults, but I'm not going to fix them. Fix them. Come on. I do not like when people sit there and talk about someone's problems but never fix their own. Don't throw stones, ye have stones thrown at you. I'm not a Christian, or, you know, but that's a good saying, you know. Don't go pointing at people's faults unless you're working on your own. If you're working on your own, and, you know, hey, that's a good thing. If you're not, don't sit there and complain about somebody. Yes, everybody has the right to be frustrated, but you need to be able to really think, what am I doing, you know? And I'm not talking about going crazy with certain things, but really look at yourself and, like, what am I doing? Am I doing good? You know, really think for yourself. Don't let anything, and I mean anything, think for you. You know, some people can say, you know, I'm not a bootlicker or whatever. Well, certain things, you know. So yeah, I love you guys, and I think I can get this to work. And also, there's a better one of these. Again, if you see me flying nice around here, let me know. Boy. Also, like I said, with my health, it's not easy to edit things. So if you can, anybody can do that for free, let me know. Also creating banners and profile photos as well. For both my YouTubes, my Linktree, TwitX, Blue Sky, you know. If anybody doesn't mind doing that for free for me, helping out, that'd be great. I mean, even if you don't accept it, I'll send you $1. Because that's who I am. You know, I want to be able to give back. But there's a better air mouse. Fucking flying mouse. Seriously. Anyway. Weird. So, if you can help out, please do, then I can get a better one, and I don't have to keep trying like this. Bye. Love you.